The PGA Tour thought it was controlling the future. Then Jack Nicklaus opened his mouth. Now the PGA Tour is in shock as Brian Rolapp faces the one challenge no executive can easily manage, a legend with nothing left to prove. Rolap's push to reshape professional golf has already divided players, sponsors, and longtime fans. But when Nicklaus publicly questioned the direction of the tour and joked that he might get chastised for speaking out, the temperature changed instantly because this was no ordinary critic. This was Jack Nicklaus, the 18-time major champion whose name is tied to the history, credibility, and identity of American golf. And when fans saw what looked like an attempt to silence that voice, the backlash grew fast. Now, golf legends are starting to fight back, warning that the tour's new vision could erase traditional events, squeeze loyal communities, and turn golf into a product built more for television than for the people who made it matter. Brian Rolapp tries to silence Jack Nicklaus. Or did Nicklaus just expose a much deeper power struggle inside the PGA Tour? Hit the subscribe button, because what happens next could decide who really controls golf's future from here on. That question matters because the argument is much bigger than one uncomfortable comment. Rolap was brought into the PGA Tour at a moment when the organization needed a new direction. The circuit had spent years dealing with live golf, legal battles, fractured loyalties, huge purse increases, sponsor pressure, and criticism that its regular season had become too hard for casual fans to follow. The tour wanted a cleaner product, stronger events, and more frequent appearances from the biggest players. Rolap's background in the NFL made him a natural choice for a business that increasingly wanted to think like a major entertainment league. His approach was ambitious. The tour began moving toward a more defined top level of competition, with fewer events carrying greater importance, bigger purses, stronger fields, and clearer consequences for players who failed to perform. The logic was easy to understand. If every week feels important, fans know when to watch. If access to the top events becomes harder, players have more reason to protect their place. If the best names appear together more often, broadcasters and sponsors get a stronger product. But golf is not football. That difference sits at the center of Nicklaus's concern. A football team plays once a week. A golf star can travel across states or countries, practice for days, compete over 4 rounds, spend 6 hours on the course, manage sponsor duties, then repeat the cycle days later. Mental sharpness, physical recovery, and preparation all shape a player's schedule. Anyone trying to peak for a major championship does not treat every tournament the same. Nicklaus understood that better than most because his entire career was built around preparation. He never needed to play every event to prove himself. He selected his schedule carefully and focused on arriving at the most important tournaments ready to win. That approach helped him collect 18 major championships, still the record in men's golf. So when Nicklaus looked at a calendar packed with important stops, he did not see only opportunity. He saw pressure building in places that tour executives might underestimate. His concern was simple. Put too many premium tournaments close together and players will eventually make choices. A star may skip a traditional stop because a larger event comes next. Another may take a week off before a major. A third may decide that protecting his body is more important than helping a sponsor fill a field. That is where the problem spreads. A tournament does not need to disappear from the calendar to lose value. It only needs to lose enough star power. Fans notice when the biggest names are missing. Television partners notice. Sponsors notice. Local organizers notice. Eventually, the event starts feeling less important, even if its history has not changed. Nicklaus pointed toward that danger while discussing the schedule around events such as the Cognizant Classic, the Genesis Invitational, Bay Hill, and the Players' Championship. His message was not that those tournaments lacked quality. The problem was the concentration of major stops around them. Every premium week added another reason for a player to protect his energy somewhere else. Then came the line that made the entire argument feel personal. Nicklaus joked that he would probably get chastised for saying it. There is no verified evidence that Rolap ordered Nicklaus to keep quiet, punished him, or threatened him. That distinction matters. But the joke still landed hard because fans understood the message underneath it. Nicklaus understood that he was challenging the tour's direction, questioning a leadership group invested in change, and inviting attention to an issue executives would rather control carefully. An 18-time major champion does not casually wonder whether he will get chastised, unless he understands that his opinion cuts against powerful people. That is why the story exploded beyond one schedule complaint. It became a fight over who gets to define the future of professional golf. Nicklaus represents a version of the game built on tournaments with individual identities, distinct courses, loyal local communities, and sponsors woven into the rhythm of a season. Some events were bigger than others, but the tour still felt like a traveling circuit rather than a small group of elite shows surrounded by everything else. Rolap's model moves closer to a modern sports product. There is value in that idea. The old PGA Tour schedule often felt endless. Casual viewers could struggle to understand which regular season event truly mattered. A tournament could produce great golf on Sunday and disappear from the larger conversation by Monday morning. LIV Golf made that weakness harder to ignore because it forced the tour to defend its structure while also protecting its stars. Rolap's answer attacks the confusion directly. Create a clearer top level, make qualification more difficult, give the biggest events real weight, build promotion and relegation into the system, restore pressure through cuts, make fans understand that losing status has consequences. That is not a silly plan. In fact, some of the most important players in golf have supported major parts of it. Tiger Woods has been involved in discussions about the tour's future and has backed the need for meaningful change. Rory McIlroy has criticized parts of the evolving structure at different moments, yet he has also acknowledged that the PGA Tour cannot simply remain frozen while the sports market changes around it. Those voices make the debate more complicated. This is not young executives on one side and old legends on the other. It is a fight over trade-offs. Rolap is asking what the PGA Tour must become to stay commercially powerful. Nicklaus is asking what the PGA Tour cannot afford to lose while making that transformation. Curtis Strange has raised similar concerns. The two-time U.S. Open champion has criticized changes that could make long-standing tournaments feel like feeder events for a smaller collection of elite stops. His frustration comes from the belief that the tour's identity was built through a broad network of tournaments, not only the richest weeks on the calendar. Peter Jacobsen has also warned about the risk of shrinking the importance of local events. He has focused on communities, charities, and the long relationships that PGA Tour tournaments create in cities across the country. That is where the phrase "golf legends fight back" becomes more than thumbnail drama. These veterans are not fighting because they hate change. Their resistance comes from understanding what gets lost when a business model becomes too narrow. A tournament can be a major week for a city without being a major championship. Volunteers plan around it. Charities depend on it. Families return every year, and courses build reputations around hosting the tour. Remove enough importance from those events, and the PGA Tour becomes something different. That does not automatically make the new version worse, but it makes the stakes real. Rolap has a difficult job because professional golf is still trying to recover from years of division. LIV Golf did more than steal players. It forced the PGA Tour to rethink money, loyalty, scheduling, field strength, and what fans actually value. Signature events became one answer. Larger purses became another. Player equity added another layer. Every solution created another argument. Elite fields pleased fans who wanted the best players together, while golfers outside the top tier worried about access. Sponsors wanted stronger names, and traditionalists feared ordinary tour events were sliding down the ladder. That tension never disappeared. Rolap inherited it. The most dangerous mistake would be treating Nicklaus's criticism as resistance from someone who no longer understands modern sport. Nicklaus has spent decades around tournament operations. The Memorial Tournament is part of his legacy. He knows how a premier golf event is built, how sponsors are treated, how courses are prepared, and how top players decide where they want to compete. When he warns about schedule compression, he is not speaking as a fan watching from his couch. He is speaking as a man who has lived nearly every side of the business. At the same time, Nicklaus is not automatically right because he is Jack Nicklaus. The tour cannot protect every tradition forever. Events will rise or fall as media habits change and younger fans consume sports through streaming, social platforms, and shorter bursts of attention. The PGA Tour competes with far more entertainment than it did during Nicklaus's prime. Rolap was hired to deal with that reality. If his plan creates a season that feels sharper, easier to follow, and harder for players to dominate without consistently performing, fans may eventually embrace it. Promotion and relegation can be especially powerful. Golf has always sold the dream that performance opens doors. A player who catches fire should be able to climb. A player who stops producing should feel pressure. If the new structure delivers that honestly, Rolap can argue that he is not closing golf. He is making status mean more. But that promise only works if the lower level remains meaningful. An invisible second tier would drain emotion from promotion, weakened sponsorship would hurt traditional tournaments, and too many players locked outside the richest stage would fuel resentment. That is why the legends keep pushing. Their argument is not only about memories, it tests the logic of the new system. The business questions are uncomfortable. A respected tournament can be squeezed between two huge events. A star can choose rest, a sponsor can question the value of a weaker field, and a longtime tour city can suddenly feel like a stepping stone to something bigger. Nicklaus's warning forces Rolap to answer those concerns. The tour can point towards stronger television windows, clearer season narratives, bigger purses, and better concentration of star power. Those benefits are real. The critics can point toward weakened local events, increased schedule pressure, and a widening gap between the top level and everyone below it. Those risks are real too. That is what makes this conflict so uncomfortable. Different parts of the same future can support both arguments. Schedule compression can push stars toward selective appearances, while too many interchangeable weeks can weaken fan interest. Traditional tournaments deserve protection, yet history alone cannot solve a modern attention problem. Communities still matter, even as broadcasters and sponsors demand greater certainty. Those realities can exist together. That balance will determine whether the redesign feels like progress or a retreat from golf's roots. The real test will come when the plan stops being a presentation and starts affecting actual careers. The pressure will become tangible for players near the top-tier cut line, tournaments losing status, sponsors weighing renewals, and cities fighting to keep dates. That is when Rolap's vision will either prove itself or expose the weaknesses Nicklaus is warning about now. And Nicklaus's joke about getting chastised will be remembered for a different reason. It did not prove anyone silenced him. It revealed how sensitive the conversation had become. One of the most famous living voices from the PGA Tour era questioned the direction of the product, and everyone instantly understood that he was stepping into dangerous territory. That tells you how much power is at stake. Rolap is not simply managing tournaments. He is helping decide what counts as the center of professional golf. Nicklaus is not simply defending old dates. He is defending the belief that the tour's strength came from breadth, history, and relationships that cannot always be measured by television ratings. The legends joining that argument make it harder for the tour to wave away criticism. Curtis Strange has credibility. Peter Jacobsen has experience. Nicklaus carries something even heavier, symbolic authority. Executives can outvote him. They cannot erase what his name means to golf. That is why trying to dismiss the criticism would be a mistake. The strongest response from Rolap is not silence. It is proof. The new structure must make golf easier to follow without destroying meaningful events, give promoted players real opportunity, keep the lower tier valuable, retain sponsors outside the elite series, and let stars manage the calendar without abandoning traditional stops. If that happens, Rolap wins the argument through results. If they do not, Nicklaus's warning becomes much harder to ignore. And that brings the entire story back to the moment that started the tension. Jack Nicklaus spoke, questioned the schedule, and joked about the reaction he might face. Other respected voices then showed that the concern was not his alone. No confirmed order silenced him, and no official punishment shut him down. Instead, something more dangerous for the PGA Tour happened. The debate escaped the boardroom. Now fans are looking at the future of golf and asking who benefits, who loses, and whether the sport is protecting the people and places that built it. That is a question Rolap cannot answer with marketing language. He will have to answer it with the tour he creates. A stronger, clearer, more competitive PGA Tour that preserves its roots would give Rolap every reason to claim success. Fading traditional events, overloaded star schedules, or a widening gap between the elite and everyone else would make the legend's warnings look painfully accurate. Jack Nicklaus has already placed his marker. Brian Rolapp has placed his. Now golf waits for the results. And the most fascinating part is that this fight is only beginning for everyone in the coming years. Do you think Jack Nicklaus was right to challenge the PGA Tour's new direction? Or is Brian Rolapp making the changes professional golf desperately needs? Drop Jack in the comments if you stand with Nicklaus. Drop Rolap if you believe the tour has to change. And if you want the biggest power struggles, hidden tensions, and decisions shaping professional golf explained without the noise, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next PGA Tour battle may already be forming, and when it breaks, you will want the full story.